नमस्ते सर. नमस्ते मोहन राघव. नमस्ते.
Namaste.
Sir, we shall start. Shall we start?
Yes.
We were waiting for you only. Welcome, very warm welcome to sir who has joined us. Um, Good afternoon, all. I extend my very warm greeting to all the participants and our special guest here. This is a valedictory session of a 7-day faculty development program on science and technology in Indian knowledge system. I would like to start with a quote that modern man is a terrible predicament. He is helplessly enamored with the beauty of what the old world built, but despises the beliefs that inspired them to build it. That holds true for architecture, disciplines, customs, and practices, and many more things. In this FDP, we have had the pleasure of listening to 16 speakers who delivered their expert lectures on the field like engineering, mathematics, biotechnology, medicine, ecology, and others. They inspired us to inspired us to face the belief system in various methodological ways. We have had 34 national and international participants from very diverse backgrounds in academia. I am glad that we are concluding this epistemological rich program with a scintillating address by our guest, Professor Mohan Raghavanji. He is an associate professor and uh, head of the Department of Heritage Science and Technology, Department of Heritage Science and Technology at IIT Hyderabad. Mohan Raghavanji researches and teaches at the Department of Biomedical Engineering in the broad area of computational neuroscience and motor systems in particular. His lab is focused on building 3D multi-scale multidisciplinary computational models of human movement machinery spread across the spinal cord and its integration with musculoskeletal systems. Mohanji is also the founding head of the Department of Heritage Science and Technology at IIT Hyderabad, a unique department that seeks to use science and technology to serve heritage industries and professionals. His research at this department is focused on reinventing the yoga studio in a digital age that enables scale, efficacy, and authenticity. He has a keen interest in the mechanistic basis of yoga and Ayurveda from the perspective of physiology. He is particularly focused on compiling and curating heritage databases of tangible and intangible heritage assets. He researches on curation, mathematical analysis, visualization of broad range of heritage, tangible and intangible. He has recently co-authored a textbook on elements of Indic knowledge systems in heritage, a book of first principles of researchers in IKS and heritage area. He was founder and co-head of the Center of Healthcare Entrepreneurship at IIT Hyderabad from 2015 to 18, where his work centered around bringing together academic research, design thinking, methodologies, and healthcare technology for benefit of society at large. He has mentored several startups in the area of healthcare. He has been a postdoctoral fellow at National Center of Biological Sciences, Bangalore, and holds a PhD in the area of computational neuroscience from IISc Bangalore. Prior to entering academics, he spent 7 years at Motorola, where he was a part of a team that developed the world's first 3G mobile phone. Over the last 20 years, he has given numerous lectures in English and Kannada, conducted workshops of elements of Indic knowledge systems and heritage. He has delivered several invited lectures on scientific aspects of Indian culture, especially yoga. He has contributed numerous articles to web journals and writes regularly in regional newspapers, Kannada. He explores symbolic digital art on Indic themes and occasionally writes short fiction that deal with cultural themes embedded in a contemporary context. We are very pleased to welcome you here, Mohanji. Over to you for your guest address. Thank you.
Namaste, Anshuji. Thank you very much, and my deep gratitude to the organizers for inviting me here today for this particular session. It's a real pleasure to be talking about Indian knowledge systems. It's been a long couple of days of workshop for all of you, and I'm pretty sure it has been very enriching. Of course, it will be tiring And at the end of the long workshop, I can imagine largely how things would be. So in spite of the amount of long ardor it's taken, you're all very enthusiastic to go through one more. And respecting that, I will keep my talk short. But I will just focus on what is it that you can take away from here. Right. So you have heard over the last couple of days, you have heard about what is it that we had, what is it that we had forgotten, what is it that we seek to get back. In a sense, you have explored the history of science and technology in India. You have looked at how was it in the centuries and millennia gone by, and what is it that we have lost. But then inevitably, all of us must come to this question of, yes, those days were really good. Those were our golden days. But then what do we do today? This is a question that we all come to after that euphoria of having discovered those great treasures dawns on us. For whatever reasons, I'm not going to get into why did we lose, how did we lose, who made us lose, or who tripped us. The world is an unforgiving place, and every single nation, civilization, country is running a race to the front, and it's an unforgiving race where all contestants in this race are competing really hard. Sometimes they play fair, sometimes they play foul. All of that does happen. And the fact of the matter was that for several millennia, until possibly just a couple of centuries ago, possibly even up to the 18th century, right? As Dharampalji's work amply demonstrate over the last couple of days, we have been witness to the works of the giant amongst those who have sought to revive Indic systems and Indian knowledge systems and Indian sciences and all of that. As that giant has intellectual giant is proven, even until possibly the 18th century, we were ahead of this race. We were possibly the leader, if not one of the leaders of this particular race that was being run by several civilizations and countries. However, at some point in time, we have had certain gentlemen play roles like, for whatever reasons, we were tripped up. Because we were ahead of the race, we were tripped up. And by the time we could get up, a century or two had passed by. And now, when we look up, what do we see? We see all our competitors way ahead. Way ahead. And that is the state in which Indian knowledge systems is in today. So now, while we may think back and say, okay, those were days when we were ahead of everybody else and the world learned at our feet, how is it that we gain back the leadership position today? And that is definitely not going to happen the simple, straightforward way, because it's not a day or two that's passed by, it's a couple of centuries. And because of that, as we seek to gain the leadership position, we will have to play smart and we will have to play very intelligently, as our forefathers always did. Our forefathers competed with the rest of the world and proved their mettle. And I think we will pretty much have to do that. And in order to do that, we will need to have a very systematic way in which we will be able to take our own Indian knowledge systems, look at what were the great achievements that we had, where was it that we were much better than the rest, How is it that the others have actually sprung into the lead today? How can I make up for loss of time that we have suffered in this race, right? And the loss of time is not going to have, made up just by, getting. Sorry, was there a question? Right.
No, sir.
So the
I
loss
think there is a.
so the loss in time is not going to be just made up by waking up and then say, okay, I will continue to run the race from where I was 200, 300 years ago. That's not going to happen. That gap must be bridged, and the gap must be bridged by doing some kind of a makeup where we need to very quickly catch up with the leaders, possibly look for somebody else, driving past on this racetrack, maybe somebody with a vehicle, a scooter, a car, take a lift and say, hey, I got left out. Can you please drop me to the front there? Take a lift, go all the way ahead and get dropped along with the leaders, and now you start running again, right? That is what we will need to do if we need to catch up with the pack and then show we were there. But when we actually get a lift and we get dropped to the front of the pack, okay, it doesn't mean that we get to the front of the pack, we change our jerseys and say, oh, okay, no, I actually belong to this other guy and I'm part of his team and let's all run together. Right? That's not, my jersey is my jersey. I am who I am, right? My heart, my mind, the soul, everything along with the external jersey is all still me. And I'm only leapfrogging ahead to make up for whatever happened earlier. What happened earlier was, for whatever reasons, I don't sit and brood over it, but I have to start running the race from there. In short, while we try to revive our Indian science, technology, our way of life, and our knowledge systems, we will have to pick a leaf out of the book of our competitors. We will have to understand what is the distance that has elapsed, what is it that the rest of the world is doing today. Temporarily, for a moment of time, we will have to actually integrate what we have or what we had with what is there today, and then over a period of time try to internalize it, take the advantages or all the other innovations that have happened in the area of science and technology in the current systems of education, take it in, assimilate it, but without diluting our original focus. Some of the external nature or features of the science and technology that was there in India, of course, will change because it is just a function of time. But every change does not mean that we have given up ours and taken up somebody else's. Because even if we had run the race continuously over the last 200 years, I'm pretty sure the state of Indian science and technology and knowledge system would definitely not be like how it was 300 years ago, right? Even if we had nobody tripping us up and we had developed organically, there would have been a huge difference between what was there 300 years ago and today. Definitely, if our neighbors were inventing electric bulbs and inventing the computers, Indians would definitely not have sat back in an isolation in a cocoon and said, okay, I don't know anything about that. They would not have allowed the others to beat them. What would they have done? They would have possibly run that race themselves, invented their own electric bulbs. There would have been an exchange of ideas, exchange of tricks. We would have had our own versions of the light bulbs, our own versions of electricity, and our own versions of the computer, which might not have been too different from that, because in an interconnected world, you can already see, even in the old world, that the ideas that were there in India, our innovations, were exchanged constantly with the rest of the world. All the mathematics that we developed, we gave to the rest of the world. And there have been things that we have picked up from others as well. However, our way of life and our knowledge system always stayed unique. And it stayed the way it was. And that is what we must try to do. if we had not been tripped and continued to work along those lines, where would we have been today? We will have to reimagine ourselves and said, if Indian knowledge systems, its sciences, its technologies, its arts had developed concurrently along with the rest of the world, how would it have been today? It would definitely not have been an electricity less or a computer less kind of a world. We would have had all of that or something comparable to that. However, the essence of it, how we deploy it, how we use it, what kind of uses do we put to it, what are the choices that we make in the science and technology, all of this would have been very, very, very different. And that would have been something very, very Indian. So, cut the long story short, what is it that we have to do today? We have to understand what is the essence of the Indic in the Indic knowledge systems or Indian knowledge systems or the Bharatiyata when we talk of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. We'll have to understand what is it that was characteristic of our developments. What were its underlying, what was its underlying focus, and how did it go ahead? And having learned that, we must also pick up relevant tricks and knowledge from the contemporary knowledge systems and fuse it, reimagine it into a way where our forefathers would have been if the 300 years were not lost. Right? So this is the essence of what I feel we should be doing, and in a way that is the vision that drives us at the Department of Heritage Science and Technology at IIT Hyderabad. And this is also what we've been striving to do. So now I will just quickly, over the next 10 to 15 minutes, take you through this vision of how such a world would be. What is the kind of work that one can do today in Indian knowledge systems in a variety of different fields in order that we can regain that leadership position, where we can have a Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, which is not devoid of computers or electricity or all the convenience we have today, but very importantly, it will have the heart and soul of Bharatiyata at its center. Okay? So, if I can just share my screen. Okay. Post disable. Can you please enable me to share my screen? Should you?
Yes, sir. It's done. Now you can.
Right. So I will just quickly run through, what. Right. So Indian knowledge system is, of course, not a subject. It is a complete education system in itself. Right. So it's the education system that we had in India over so long before we were tripped up. Now, how is it different? It's very different in the way the goal of the education system itself is. That is the primary difference in itself. So, what are the different goals of a current education system? There are different reasons that are given, and these are all reasons that are picked up from very respectable sites like the UNESCO and other places who draft such global documents. One is, of course, that it is a personal, it's a fundamental right. I mean, don't even think about, don't even ask the question why education is important. Education is a fundamental right. Everybody must be given that, right? And then we also want to understand, make sure that we are physically, mentally, emotionally, our well-being is taken care of. There are cultural reasons to understand the cultural milieu of where we stay and what we do. That is a reason. There is a very important economic reason that says, okay, let's earn and contribute to economy. And earn something for ourselves as well. We contribute to the economy, but we earn. And most importantly, that is one reason that everybody is very much aware of, and it's possibly one of the most common reasons. I mean, why do we learn? So that beta bada hoke नौकरी अच्छी लग जाएगी, सरकारी नौकरी, रोटी कपड़ा मकान etc. all very common kind of reasons. And of course there are some social reasons as well, where you say, okay, I have to become a good citizen, I need to contribute, and so on and so forth. So these are all the standard reasons that everybody has. And these are the standard reasons of even the policymakers when they design such systems, right? But we will have to think what is common to all of these goals, right? Why does becoming a good citizen important for us? I mean, why is it that that something like that drives us? Or very simple to understand that why is it that we want to earn and be able to provide for roti kapda makan? Because it's very simple. If I don't eat, I'm going to be hungry, and being hungry is very painful, right? If I'm medically not fit, then I may be diseased, and then disease is very painful. Similarly, not being in an emotionally good state is again, it's distressing, it's depressing. It's what is it? It's all some kind of a pain, right? So, but then okay, you might think, okay, what about a good citizen and not contributing, etc. That surely does not cause pain. Well, that does, because the moment you do not become a good citizen and you feel that, okay, I mean, why should I not be a good citizen? I mean, I'll just take care of myself. I don't need to take care of anybody. I'm just being all by myself. I'll try to hog everything for myself. Then automatically the others are also going to react. And when others going to react and isolate one person, the person obviously feels bad. Person feels bad, feels very strained, and that leads to unhappiness, right? Or maybe somebody else takes some pleasure in thinking that, okay, I mean, whether I earned for myself or not, I was able to make an impact in the society and create something good for everybody. And this thought that I have been able to do something nice for somebody else, that I have been able to make an impact in this world, that thought gives us joy. So if you look at all of these reasons, eventually what is common to all of them is that all of them give you joy. We do things because we like it. It's as simple as that. And when I say I like it, it means it gives us happiness. We want to maximize our rewards, maximize the amount of happiness that we get, amount of joy that we get, and we try to minimize the amount of pain that we get. Pain is the opposite of joy. And this is the most fundamental, there's the most fundamental reason why anybody ever does anything. Forget even about education. And the index actually understood this very well. They understood this very well, and then they designed an education system or entire system of life that is engineered to achieve joy for everybody. And when we say everybody, it is not just one set of people, another set of people, one country, another country. It's Shanno Astu Dvipade Shan Chatushpade. It's for the two-legged as well as for the four-legged, which basically sees it goes beyond the comity of nations or humanity. It goes, it even wants to give this joy to animals. And it's not just that. It's to everybody. It's for the animate, the inanimate. It just believes in, or it works to make sure that everybody gets the particular happiness. So this happiness is what it is working for. And when you look at this particular happiness, they did a complete and thorough analysis of happiness and said, where does happiness come from? Where does happiness come from? What is the process by which happiness is obtained? And then they say, okay, somebody make feel happy if I eat, my food. Somebody likes candy. Somebody likes sweets. Somebody likes chaat, or some people have different preferences. So when I do eat what I really like, how do I feel happy? It's because I bring all the objects of sensory enjoyment, all the bhog, I take it and I'm able to put it in my mouth. When I put it in my mouth, it interacts with the taste buds and the receptors, and then my brain is able to detect this, and then eventually I feel happy. My favorite movie, right? We have our favorite everything. My favorite movie, my favorite song, my favorite clothes, my favorite food, my favorite something. So what is all of this favorite things? Basically, these favorite are the ones that I like to give to the respective sense organs. My eye should come in contact with the movie. My ear should come in contact with the music, and so on and so forth. And when this happens, happiness is released from within us. So that means all of this happiness that we do think about is coming from the interaction of objects with our sense organs. Our motor organs make sure that these objects come in contact, and this is how we actually get our happiness. But then we also realize that when we sleep, even then we feel very happy, right? Because we don't want to get up in the morning on a Sunday, right? As you all have done today. On a Sunday early morning, if somebody wakes you up, is it at अरे 5 मिनट दे दो यार बस. Right? And why is it? Of course, sleep is not a state where you are in contact with the world or you're enjoying or something. I mean, we are hardly in touch with the. In fact, if somebody told you when you go to sleep that you're going to enter a state where you will not be able to hear, you can't listen, you can't talk, you will be cut off from the near and dear ones, and you will be cut off from your house and all your money that you have made, and nobody would even go to sleep. But still, we do. We like to cut ourselves off from this world for some time and enjoy the happiness of sleep. Correct? And similarly, there is another fourth state which the Bharatiyas innovated, and they said the problem with sleep is that it is of course joyful, but then I get to know of this joy only when I wake up. Until I woken up, I don't realize how happy I was all those 8 hours. So, can I find a state where I will be able to feel the happiness, but also know that I am happy? Right? Every single moment, I should be aware and conscious. I shouldn't be like I am in my sleep. So they innovated and found that there is another state in which to keep this, where you cut yourself off from the rest of the world, like you are in sleep. However, unlike sleep, you are actually awake and enjoying every moment of it. And this particular happiness that you get, which you get from within yourself, because you are cut off from the rest of the world, it couldn't have come from all your indriyas, and hence it's called as the Atma Sukha. So the Bharatiyas, in a sense, were able to get a complete picture of what happiness is, what are the kinds of happiness one can get, and how to get all of that, and how to strike a balance between the different kinds of happiness, between the bhog and the yoga. And this is not all. They also realized that what we do is not in isolation from the rest of the world, because we sleep when it is night outside, we wake up when it is morning outside, and this is not like some kind of a coincidence. The external Brahmand is connected with this Pindan. They are both in synchrony. Every single animal has connections and does certain things during the day and during the night, during this Vasanta Kal, and then again in the Varsha Kal, and then again the Shishira, and all of these other different seasons. Our behavior is linked to the seasons. Our behavior is linked. Those of you who work on maybe chronobiology understand this very, very well. All human endeavor is intricately tied to the external environment. And some of the organisms are very well tied to the solar cycles, and some of them are tied intricately to the lunar cycles. For example, crabs who live by the seashore, they, for their lives, the high tides and low tides are the most important variations, and those are determined by phases of the moon. So they have clocks which almost replicate what is happening to the moon, the phases of the moon. So we all have mechanisms by which we connect with the rest of the world outside, and this was something that our ancients realized. And the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara's second most important principle here is that the Brahmanda and Pindanda are all intertwined together, and all of them go around, cyclically, just like the sun and the moon and everything around us is cyclical. The seasons are cyclical, the night and day are cyclical, and then you'll find cycles up to 46,000 year cycles called Milankovitch cycles, and all of that does happen, right? So this fundamental understanding of who we are, how we are connected to the rest of the universe, and how do we get happiness? What are the kinds of happiness? What is the magnitude of the different kinds of happiness? All of this understanding was at the center of the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, and this is what differentiates us from the rest of the world. Although our people would have eventually found or invented, discovered all the other modern conveniences that we do see, I would hypothesize that they would have developed all of this in a manner such that our connections with the rest of the world are not broken. They would have framed rules for the usage of such systems where it is not broken, where the amount of happiness we get is always maximized. Now we can ask ourselves, while we went on the march of technology and science to invent and discover and do all of that, where these principles actually are there too. And you can look at how science or technology or all the other rules of the Dharma Shastra or any other Shastra in the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara were evolved over a long period of time, you will see that these principles were always kept in mind. And those are the major differences as between a Bharatiya Gyan Parampara and the contemporary knowledge system that we have. Right? So this knowledge system was taken forward eventually, and over the last millennia, several disciplines have been innovated. Right? So, for example, because I don't have enough time to tell you how this particular simple set of principles, right? Happiness, joy for all, and the fact that we are very intricately connected with the world around us. How these simple principles gave rise to all the Chaturdasha Vidyas and Ashtadasha Vidyas or the Chatushashti Kalas. How did it give rise to it? What were the different steps by which all of these different disciplines came about in pursuance of these goals? I mean, we don't have enough time to do that. But I will just now fast forward and say all of this eventually gave rise to these disciplines, which were typically the Vedas and the Upavedas and the Vedangas. And if you look at Vedangas, there are the Shiksha, the Vyakaranam, Chandas, Nirukta, there is Jyotisha, there is Nirukta, there is Kalpa, and then all of these other disciplines. Right? And you have all the Kalas, and the Kalas are of variety of Kalas. Some of them relate to the music, dance, performing arts, some relate to painting, some relate to home improvement and the Alankara of aspect. This is the personal Alankara, right? Then there is culinary related kalas, word and voice play. There is engineering related kalas. There are political ones, and then the greatest of all of them is Atma Vidya, is how to obtain the highest kinds of happiness. Right? So, having said this, now what I would like to do is probably go to this last slide for paucity of time. Okay, so now what have I done here? In the center here are all the 14 Vidyas here. I've placed all the list of Vidyas and all the list of Kalas at the center. Okay, and I have taken all the modern disciplines that exist today on the periphery over here. I've placed them all on the periphery, right? So if you put them, so you have literary, cultural studies, anthropology, archaeology, philosophy, health, cognitive science, psychology, medicine, performing arts, fine arts, culinary, pharmacological sciences, you have textiles, uh, you have mechanical engineering, design, you have chemistry and materials, you have fashion, home science, interior design, sociology, personal law, civil engineering, architecture, sculpture, political science, public policy, law, economics, military strategy, management, maths, astronomy, agriculture, animal husbandry. You have all of these current topics. Now, if you look at this, almost all of the modern departments or subjects you will find on the periphery over here. And here is a mapping that shows that all of the disciplines that we talk of today had their equivalents. That same discipline was also part of the Indian system of education, which is there in the center over here. Every single of those disciplines were actually there with us, and we were also working. It doesn't mean that what we study today in each of the external disciplines is the same as what we study here. Possibly, if this had continued over the last 300 years, a lot of this and possibly even more have been here. That is a different matter. So now, as we embark, I told you that we will need to craft a multidisciplinary future for Indian knowledge systems. And this is something the NEP also talks about. The NEP also talks about having an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary education system. It talks about bringing in Indian knowledge systems at the core of all of these. And as we look at all of these developments, the way ahead is to actually craft an interdisciplinary future where we take, for example, now you look at how do you craft interdisciplinary futures, right? So on the one side, you have all the core Indic Shastras, let us say. You have all the life science subjects, you have all the engineering subjects, you have the arts and humanities subjects, right? Now you can find at the intersection points between any of these, you will find these points which are intersections, and those intersections represent the multidisciplinary disciplines. For example, here, all the traditional disciplines are on the top row, and all the modern disciplines are on the columns over here. And now, if you look at any one particular colored box, it represents a couple of fields of so let me take one example over here, right? So let's talk of Indic mass media, right? So if we had Indic mass media as a subject, or Indic architecture, or any of these as a subject, how would that subject develop today, right? So if you were to be doing Indic mass media, you will have to study concept in the contemporary system of dramaturgy, mass media, neuroscience, and cognitive science, and the traditional disciplines of Natya Shastra over here, Natya Shastra. You will have to understand Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Puranas. You will also have to understand Alankara Shastra and all about Indic festivals, Indic dress, costumes, ornaments, design, and all of that. So the multidisciplinary intersection of all of these will give you something called an Indic mass media, right? Similarly, if you want to study the area of Indic materials, then you will have to study current metallurgy, materials, chemistry, and textiles. But along with that, you will also have to study the Rasa Shastra. The things have been cut off here, so you will not be able to find here. The Indic Rasa Shastras, then also the Artha Shastras, Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc., to understand the kind of different materials that people were using, all the costumes that were actually being used, and so on and so forth. If you want to understand Indic life and society today, right, all the social sciences, the Indic version of the Lautika Shastra, will have to have an understanding of history, archaeology, geography, cartography, and also you will have to learn machine learning and data science of today, because that's how data and patterns are processed today. And you will have to fuse it with an understanding that comes from several of these shastras. So this is how interdisciplinary subjects will have to come up. And this chart is in essence talking about how this interdisciplinarity will come about. Each of the icons that you see here is one such interdisciplinary domain of work in Indian knowledge systems. For example, you see this icon over here, right? So this is called as the Anvikshiki. It is at the interface of the current disciplines of philosophy, health, cognitive sciences, psychology, and medicine, along with the Anvikshaki or the Darshanas and Ayurveda and Ayurveda, the Darshanas, especially the Vedanta and the Yoga, along with Ayurveda. Similarly, if you look at performing arts, right? So performing arts that we have today will be an interdisciplinary mixture of all the different performing arts fields, along with the Gandharva Kalas, the Alekhya, the Kalas, then the Gandharva Veda, all the Natya Shastra and all of them together. Similarly, now let us take something like possibly, the contours of the Rajaniti Shastra over here, the Rajaniti Shastra, as a multidisciplinary inter-IKS domain. It will have a mixture of today's political science, public policy, law, economics, military strategy, and management, along with the Dandaniti and the Rajaniti Shastra amongst the Shastras, the Varta, which is basically the Vanijya aspect of Varta, will be here. The Krishi and the Pashupalya will be a part of agriculture and animal husbandry, and all of that together with this system here. And it will not be sufficient if you stop there. You will also need some insights from the Dhanurveda and the Arthashastram and all of these things together. Right? So similarly, when you look every single discipline today, right? So we have different disciplines, which is basically the Anvikshaki. Let me just get the okay right now. This is better, right? So this is Anvikshaki, which is at the interface of already that I've said. This system is the Bhaishajya Vibhag, which is basically at the intersection of medicine and Ayurveda and yoga. This is performing arts, the Gandharva Vibhag. This is the Gandharva Vibhag, and this is the Shilpa and Alekhya Vibhag, which is basically all the fine arts. Here is all the Rasa Dhatu Vibhag over here on the other side. So here is all the culinary and the Dravya Guna Sanyog Vibhag over here. And what does Dravya Guna Sanyoga Vibhag have? It is a combination, it is the equivalent of today's pharmacological and culinary, home science, etc., all of them together. And you might be wondering, why is pharmacology and home science together? Because, very importantly, the insight in the Indian knowledge system is that food itself is your medicine. Food is the most important aspect to keep you away from medicine, and it is also the medicine that heals you. That's why in the Indian conception of things in IKS, home science or culinary science was never a separate thing from all the medicine or the pharmacological sciences. And that is why we've brought them all together here as the Dravya Guna Sanyog Vibhag. And here is another thing. I mean, one thing we often miss out is that there was a significant amount of engineering in the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, which was the Abhiyantriki aspects. And how was Abhiyantriki used? It was used in order to further the goals of society, pretty much like it is today. And although historically we only had the mechanical aspects of engineering, today, because of the invention of electricity, you have a range of electrical engineering systems, which is electrical and computer science and so on and so forth. But it is very much possible to bring it on similar lines to how Abhiyantriki Kala evolved within the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. Now, this is the Rasa Dhatu Vibhag, which is broadly the equivalent of today's chemistry and material science. Here is the Alankara Vibhag, which is a conglomeration of design. Today, design comprises largely, it is said that design is only for objects and all for other things that you create. But how you decorate yourself is the subject matter of fashion, which is a separate subject. So you have now fashion and design together as one subject under the Alankara Vibhag. And the very interesting thing is, in the Bharatiya Jnana Paramparas, the Alankara Vibhag also talks about dramatics, histrionics, and all of those kind of subjects as well. And then you have one Vibhag around the crafting of toys and games and education. So here is the Vastu Vibhag, which looks at the equivalent of civil engineering, architecture, sculpture, etc., along with all the Vastu Shastra, the Dharma Shastra, the Rishi Sut, and a variety of different, along with Vastu Shastra and the Dharma Shastras. So you have sociology, law, etc., all of them here, which go along with this. Similarly, you have maths and astronomy, the Ganita Bhauta Vibhag. You also have the Rajaniti Shastra Vibhag, or you can have the Varta Vibhag, which is basically around Krishi and Pashupalya. You have the historical and civilizational sciences here. You have the Vark Vibhag, which combines speech and linguistics and natural language processing today. You have the Laukika Shastra Vibhag, which is the equivalent of today's social sciences. So this is the multidisciplinary future of Indian knowledge systems. And very importantly, now what kind of questions can one ask in the Indian knowledge systems, right? So over the last couple of days, what you would have seen is largely the kind of questions that we ask is in the nature of what was there already, what did we have, right? So it is about conservation, it's recording, documenting what was there in the Indian knowledge systems, right? And about Indian knowledge systems and frameworks, you look at what are the frameworks available for creating these various disciplines. But then going ahead, we will also have to increase the number of studies which try to understand the science behind Indian knowledge systems. We will also have to do studies that deploy, create new technology or repurpose existing technology in order for furthering Indian knowledge systems. So all of these kinds of studies can happen in the 16 different disciplines, multidisciplinary areas that we have talked about. And this is what we believe is the future direction in which Bharatiya Gyan Parampara is going. As we speak, the IKS division of the Ministry of Education has started work on crafting minors in as many as possible of these 16 disciplines. And minor programs are something that students can actually pick up and do along with their graduation. For example, a student who is, let's say, studying linguistics, right, will also now be able to take a minor in the Vad Vibhag or Indian language and linguistics. A student of, let's say, philosophy will also be able to do a minor in Anvikshiki, etc. And it is not even that. Maybe today, even a student of computer science will be able to do a minor in the Indian knowledge systems minor of Vad Vibhag, where you are able to synthesize or bring together computer science and large language models and linguistics and Shiksha, Chandas and all of that. Right? In fact, the first start to these kind of programs was made by our department about 2 years ago, where we have now currently a program at the master's level. For example, we have a master's program in technology for yoga. And what is the syllabus in this particular stream? On the one side, they will study subjects like the Yoga Shastra, which is Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, maybe the Gheranda Samhita as well, along with the foundational aspects of Ayurveda, and then the Sankhya through Sankhya Karika on one side. On the other side, they will learn physiology, they will learn control systems for physiology, they will look at neuroscience, brain imaging, and all of these subjects together, so that they will be able to understand the science behind yoga and also deploy technology to create tools for yoga. Similarly, we have a master's program in the area of Indian language processing, where they study subjects on Shiksha, Vyakarana, Chandas, Nirukta. Along with that, they also study compilers, they study automatic speech recognition, text-to-speech technologies, they study NLP for Sanskrit. So this is how multiple disciplines from the modern system and from the Bharatiya system will come together to craft a multidisciplinary domain or a discipline inside Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. And as we take these forward, each of these disciplines, we hope, will develop with the heart of the Bharatiyata, but will judiciously employ and assimilate and integrate current and modern technologies as and wherever needed. So with these words, I would like to stop here. And it's been a long workshop, and I must congratulate all of you on having signed up for such a workshop and patiently going through all of these and listening to this session at the end of this. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very enriching to listen from you. I would just like to inform you that our university is already teaching IKS as a part of all the curriculums, and also I personally am working on the intersection of machine learning and culture, which is funded by ICSR, and we have other scholars who are working on similar themes. So we are on the way for doing something that you and your department are envisioning, and we would really like to take your inspiration and guidance for the projects ahead. Thank you so much. I would like to call upon Professor Brishti Mitra, our Dean of Academics, to give her remarks on the program.
Thank you very much, Anshu. Before I give my concluding remarks, is there a question I can ask Professor Raghavan?
Sure, please do.
I had a small question, sir. You said the basis of our Indian knowledge system essentially was the education system was joy for all.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's world, all of us are essentially running after the ranking system, and education is all about, meeting those criteria so that we are somewhere in the NIRF or the QS or somewhere. So in the process, we have lost this joy and happiness in learning something, in discovering something in education. How do we come out of that, sir? But do a bit of this as well as feel happy about it. This is something I'm a bit confused about.
Right. So this is absolutely the situation we have landed ourselves in, because the current system of education that we have been running is a direct lift off from the Eurocentric Western systems that we have picked up. Right. So maybe I would like to answer this question by giving you a glimpse of how education was at one point in time. Right. So even in those days, excellence was never compromised. The different schools actually competed against each other. However, the curriculum itself was such that it prioritized. There was a barometer or a metric for how good your your achievements are, or how good you have learned, etc. And that barometer had an indicator of how much of happiness or how much of dharma is maintained in a particular thing. And when I say dharma, I mean it as a very technical word, which I cannot have, which I don't have enough time here to define and elaborate on. However, the moment something went wrong, the first signs when our happiness is being lost in the pursuit of anything, whether it is education or in the pursuit of profession or anything, right? So the first sign of such a thing would be detected, and there were mechanisms in the society to correct it. We've lost all those mechanisms. As a result of these mechanisms being lost, we keep on innovating in other processes, and our key process indicators are something different. Our KPIs today are economy, it's about how much money we have made, or etc. etc. So it is quite natural that things are the way they are because the whole system is broken. And that is definitely an area of research to understand what kind of social systems need to come back, what kind of key process indicators we need to have for all professions. It's not just for the education profession. Everywhere, I think the joy is lost to a good amount of extent.
Thank you very much, sir.
Ma'am, can we take more questions if anyone has any?
Sure.
Do you want to ask any questions, participants, to Professor Raghavan? So there is a comment. Sorry, ma'am.
Sorry, this is Manisha. I wanted to
please
check in about something. One of the things I feel that we have lost in this kind of Western education system that we adopted was the faculty of intuition and, teaching children how to be sensitive to their own intuitive faculties. And I'm not even sure how one goes about teaching a child about this. But a lot of our ancient knowledge, which was they were revelations, they were not like very intellectual or mental kind of exercises of gaining knowledge. There was that Tarka Shastra also, but there was a lot of intuitive understanding that happened. So how can one bring this back into our education system is the question I have.
Okay, so I'll just give a very an example from a completely different area. Okay. So let us say, you've seen people do tightrope walks, right? So there is a rope, and there is abyss beneath, and then the person has to walk the rope with possibly a couple of pots on the head and with some, a stick to hold, and then you walk across. Right? So now one can ask 100 different kinds of questions. How is it that the acrobat's feet always find its way onto the rope? How is it that that pot does not fall down? How is it that the acrobat does not turn this way or that way? How is it? So there are 100 of things which amuse us and surprises us and say, how is it that they have been able to do all of these 100 things in coordination? Right? But now we must ask ourselves the question, is the acrobat even trying to do any one of these? The answer is no. The acrobat is actually trying to do only one thing, which is to not lose my balance. It is, and once you have got the right criteria to optimize and say, I must not lose balance come what may. And when you do that, all these 100 things come to you as a byproduct. This is the insight of the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, which I could not sufficiently elaborate. So, if one wants to achieve this joy for all, then there is this one principle that one must optimize for, and that principle is called as dharma. Once dharma becomes the center of the house, the individual, the society, the country, everybody, it is sufficient, necessary and sufficient that you ensure that dharma is maintained, then all these other 100 things that we have been asking for, how do I get joy in whatever simple things I do every day? How do I make sure that I have intuition? How do I have intellectual achievements? How do I actually go to sleep properly? How do I solve problems of insomnia? How do I solve problems of sustainability? How do I solve climate change, etc., etc., etc.? The real problem today is that we are not identifying that one single thing which our forefathers identified, and that was dharma, and that was balance as we move on.
Mhm. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to ask any questions? So if not, I will just move on to Brishti ma'am for her concluding remarks. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Raghavan, for your amazing lecture and linking the ancient disciplines with what we do today. That chart that you had is something, since we have the recording, I'll try to see if I can blow it up and put it up somewhere for us.
No, I have an expanded version which I will, circulate. I have there's a full paper on that, so that I can share that.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We have now come to the end of this amazing 6 days that we had our faculty development program on Indian knowledge systems in science and technology, and we have had amazing lectures on architecture, mechanical sciences, Vastu, Ayurveda, agriculture, chemistry, metallurgy. We have almost touched everything, mathematics, every stream that has been possible, and each of these lectures or sessions have been extremely enriching, informative, and enlightening for each one of us. And it has not just been a case where we have learned something new. It has made, each session has made us think of the way, how do we go forward from here? It's fine that we had a wonderful system before, and there's no point in just chest thumping, but how can we imbibe that and go on in future and include them in our everyday lives, in our syllabus, and teach, like Manisha ji just said, that how do we bring it to our children to get these intuitive things, to bring it back again the way we were at one point of time. And the fact that everybody's been thinking about each session, that is, I think, the biggest takeaway point from this whole faculty development program. And we have already got requests for a repeat of the same, that when can we have this FDP again? So that means, that shows how well we have done in the whole 6-day process. I would also like to thank all our speakers, each one of them. It has been fantastic listening to each one of you, and the organizers, Brahat, Professor Raghav Krishna ji, who had come the first day and told us about the fact that what is interdisciplinary, and initially we never had many disciplines, then it became sub-disciplines, and interestingly Professor Raghavan ended with that today, and that was a nice way of closing the loop, as we call it. And Raghav Krishna ji and his entire team from Brahat, everybody has been very helped us throughout. This is a process that has been going on for more than 6 months now, and we have managed to get this done. And thank you very much, each one of you. Sushant ji, you have been with us every single session, every single day. And I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, sir, Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, all of them who have given us permission to go ahead and with this faculty development program. I would like to thank Dr. Anshu Singh and her entire team who has been conducting these. They have done a splendid job. And the team from our media, our journalism department, who have made nice videos of each one of them, helped us transmit these to everybody. And we would have all the lectures on your YouTube channel so that people can gain from it in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brishti ma'am, for helping us do it. This was not possible without you. Sushant ji, would you like to say something about your experience collaborating with us?
Yeah. Speaking after such a luminous panel, I would rather not, but I would have a few words. I would like to rather emphasize that all of the credit goes to Dharampal ji, no one else. As Mohan ji said, that he is the giant in his field, and after I have started reading his works recently for a year and two, And especially after reading Indian science and technology in 18th century, this whole idea that Indian sciences were either speculative, imaginative, without theory, or with too much of theory, this kind of disturbed me at a deep level. And eventually, Anshu and I apparently met at a FDP, which was also focused on science and technology. So I think there was something seeded there, and as Beej, it grew into this. So I also would take this opportunity to emphasize this fact that with Brihat as an organization, our whole idea is to profess, propagate, and rediscover the episteme that is Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. And through that, the whole message is that no child should go without understanding Natya Shastra. No child should go without understanding the beauty of language that Ashtadhyayi presents. No child should go without understanding the meaning of life that Yoga Sutra unravels. And this whole exercise, all the FDPs that we do, all the interactions and workshops that we organize are a small, humble effort towards the episteme. As a student of IKS, I deeply am thankful, rather, to CSJMU and especially School of Social Humanities and Dr. Anshu Singh and Vrishti ma'am and whole of the faculty members and all the participants for giving us this opportunity rather than you thanking us. So it has been a pleasure. It has been very moments of erudition and as they like to say contemplation throughout this evening. So from bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Yeah.
So while we are thanking everybody, I would like to thank all the participants, especially Varsha ma'am, to be a part of the most regular students of this FDP and asking beautiful questions. I would also like to thank the HODs who facilitated students from different disciplines to join the lecture that were there for their respective domains. I'm happy to announce that all the lectures are available on CSJMU YouTube channel. Also, our team is working to bring out a compendium of the FDP, which will be available online for all of us. I'm feeling really overwhelmed to announce the formal conclusion of this program. Thank you all for your love, kindness, and support. I hope we I hope we get to do it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.